Hi, everybody. It's Facts at 5. It is Monday, April 27th, 2020. And some of the issues we'll be talking about today are some of the toxic homemade remedies that are making the headlines, the COVID statistics, as we normally do, restaurants, how they're coping with the COVID-19 virus, and all kinds of additional goodies. Welcome, Morgan. How are you today?
Welcome, Morgan. Good. How are you?
Okay. I tell you what, why don't we kick it right off with the Suffolk County stats today?
Okay, great. So because of when we're filming this, we have, it's about 2 o'clock. It's not really 5. TV land is a magical thing.
Right. Not yet, anyway.
But as of now, there are 33,073 total confirmed cases in Suffolk County. In East Hampton, there are 157. And in Southampton, there are 579. Now, that is a little bit of an uptick for the East End, for East Hampton and Southampton. Right now, Southampton is at 10 cases per 1,000 people, and East Hampton is about 7 cases per 1,000 people. So we are indeed going a little bit up, which is indicative, perhaps, of what was happening 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Because that, when people got infected. I'm curious, and I don't know the answer to this, so if anybody knows, let us know, where, if the township that is where you live, or where is it a second residence? You know, like say that I live in New York and I come out here, am I a New York case or an East Hampton case?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you report it, because I've heard that about Amagansett. I think there was like 2 cases in Amagansett.
So
and people are saying, well, most of the people that are in Amagansett are summer people. They're
Right.
out here in their summer house, and they might be reported in. So
Right.
numbers are numbers.
Numbers are numbers, and these numbers are not steadfast. And as we know, every day they're new, but also they're sort of based on who's getting tested.
Right.
And that's one of the problems with how things are going right now. But unfortunately, it's a little bit of an uptick this weekend, and hopefully it'll settle back down again.
Trend backwards,
Yep.
going where it's supposed to be. Okay, I'll hit on a couple of local points here. The Memorial Day observances are canceled due to
Which is too bad.
COVID-19, yeah. That's the ceremonies at the cemeteries, and the parade, and the Main Beach tribute to those lost at sea. And I guess we all realized that was coming as they were, we continue
Right.
to deal with this.
Well, the last thing you want to do is get people who are in a high risk,
Yeah. Uh,
place sick.
Absolutely. It's a vulnerable age group there that are doing those type of things. And then one of the other things that is some ultra-local news is that the property owners, the Town Assessment Review Board, the annual in-person grievance day, that they decided to cancel that, and the homeowners are encouraged to file grievances online, by mail, or by telephone. And in East Hampton Town, for example, the grievance day is still being planned, but officials are looking at possibly of also doing it remotely or through e-filing, like they're doing over in Southampton Town. So I guess there's more to follow on that. But Peter Van Scoyac said that it's a work in progress, that they're trying to follow the guidelines of Governor Cuomo and that type of thing, but no executive order has been signed on that or anything, but the town was moving forward with a revised calendar, Peter said.
So in Southampton, they've canceled it, but in East Hampton, it's still going to be in person until we hear otherwise.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, no, go ahead, absolutely.
So the next thing that we brought up the other day, the issue about the disinfectant.
Yeah.
So I thought this was a really interesting article that I read, where there has been an uptick in poison calls.
Right.
But it's not necessarily due to what President Trump said. It is because people are going a little bit hog wild with their cleaning.
Right, it was happening prior to
prior to that
incident. And,
right, because everybody sort of has the same idea, I guess.
Yeah.
You just put a bunch of bleach on everything.
Right.
But one of the things that people are doing in their zest and their zealousness to be hyper clean is that they are mixing chemicals that should never be mixed.
Sure.
And I only knew really one of these things. I'm asthmatic, so I tend not to mix things because my breathing is already weird. But I knew that you shouldn't mix bleach and ammonia. Okay, it literally produces a toxic fume.
Yeah, we all worked in restaurants and know that they
Right.
don't do that, yes.
And other people have been super sick because they've used way too much bleach in a gallon of water.
Right.
It's supposed to be a 3% solution, not a 10% solution, and you can get really sick from breathing that.
Right.
The other things were never, ever mixed, and I'm going to have this at the end because I think this is so important. Bleach and vinegar, that actually produces chlorine gas. Baking soda and vinegar, which actually sounds like it would be really good. Don't do that. Bleach and ammonia, as I said. Drain cleaner and drain cleaner. So if you have, brand X drain cleaner and brand Y drain cleaner, don't mix them.
Oh, see, I didn't know
Right?
that.
I didn't know that. Apparently, it can explode. Hydrogen peroxide and vinegar, which creates peracetic acid. And then bleach and rubbing alcohol. So just pretty much with bleach, stick with the 3% solution and go on your way and don't ingest it, etc. But I thought it was interesting because I think that people are wanting to protect themselves. And so it isn't that they're stupid. Can be a mistake in a lot of ways.
Right. Yeah, you just don't know how it's going to react. I remember making things with baking soda,
Isn't that how you do the
baking
lava
soda
thing?
and vinegar, and you put it in the rocket, and the rocket goes up. And, but
See,
yeah,
you were prepared for COVID-19.
I guess. I don't know.
No, is that how you do the volcano thing that you always see in class?
Somebody in my class did that, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
there you go. Okay, so anyway, so that was that. And then you were going to talk about what I watched a little bit of Cuomo this weekend, but you watched it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But you got the information.
Well, he had 2 key points, I think, take away from me, were the fact that the independent pharmacies are now going to be testing for COVID-19. And that's going to be happening in the town of East Hampton, where they will be given the testing kits and things like that, and the people that were deemed essential will be tested first.
And there's a lot of information about who's essential and who isn't essential.
Yeah,
it's almost everybody.
Yeah, almost. And I don't think any ironclad plan has come out yet locally for that.
I don't mean to say it's almost anybody, actually. I mean to say that it's almost anybody we know.
Yeah, right. No, this is true. And what else? What else did he say over the weekend?
Oh, it was the announcement of the counties that were opening, when we're going to reopen.
Right, we'll be opening. He's going to be opening them slowly in New York State. I think starting next week, some counties, and it really depends on if they've been on the downward trend for 2 weeks and things like that. But the upstate New York is nowhere near
Right.
New York City and Long Island and Westchester, so that would be the first. But I think it's still a long way off for us.
For us,
in terms of lightening the load, if you will. But it's a start anyway.
It's a start.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting because we do. If you've lived in other parts of the country, I mean, I lived in Montana for 6 years. There's nobody in Montana. Like, you don't need to shut down the whole state.
Right.
So it is, but we don't live in Montana. There's more people right in our town probably, in the East End than live in Montana.
Yeah.
So we have to be different.
Yeah, sure. And I just wonder how, being that New York is the end all for almost everything, right? Everything at some point in time seems to go in and out of New York, right? And so I wonder where the whether or not that's going to be the bottleneck for all these other states, how much of an impact.
Right.
That remains to be seen.
We hope not a lot.
Yeah. And what about the good news headline?
Well, we understand that there very probably will be a testing site in Southampton.
Yeah.
And you talked to Jesse Warren, I think today, mayor of Southampton Village. So there might be, starting Thursday, there will be testing at 10 a.m. It's going to be in Southampton Village, and it's through the nonprofit organization Hamptons Health Society.
Right.
And a couple of private donors, which is kind of amazing and wonderful. We don't have a toll-free number. We will have more information on this tomorrow once we confirm absolutely 100% that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is not completely done yet. That's an important fact. In talking to him this morning, he said that he's wrapping it up today, hopefully around 3 o'clock, and he'll have more details at that time. But like you said, more to follow on that. So the East Hampton Town Board is also holding a special meeting on Thursday, and they'll be giving updates on the COVID situation, and so that'll be 11 o'clock right here on LTV Channel 22, though.
22, though, yeah.
Yep. And what else do you have, Morgan?
I don't really have much else. I think that, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the beaches tomorrow, because there's a lot of interest in how they're going to handle policing and enforcing what's going on the beaches. So I want to get a little bit more information about that. I know the town board is really busy trying to figure out what to do in the villages, but that's a big issue for us out here.
Right.
It's how a lot of people spend their entire summers. It's how a lot of babysitting goes on. It's how a lot of stuff goes on.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's going to follow us right after this is the interview that Angela did with two of local restaurateurs, Mark Smith, who Nick and Tony's, and a bunch of other of their restaurants, and Charlene DeSmet from Springs, and she will. Angela's talking to them about how they're coping with COVID. Have you gone out to any takeout or?
I've done some takeout. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great, but it's a little pricey for me, and. But it's fantastic to be able to get such great food and to drive up. I kind of wish they would never stop doing it.
I wonder how they're getting away with like drinks to go and all that kind of stuff.
You can't do drinks to go. You don't. I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Oh, you're not allowed to.
I don't think so.
No one's doing that, ladies and gentlemen, in the town of East Hampton.
Fact.
Yeah, that's a fact. But once again, we'd like to, thank our sponsors and Soundcraft.
Sound Aircraft Services. I can't say it either. I keep saying craft services.
This has been a bad day. This has been
It's
a bad
Monday,
day.
and
Yeah.
it's not really Monday for many people who are staying at home, but it is Monday for us.
It is.
And it feels like fun day.
Yeah. But so we'd like to thank them for sponsoring us and doing all the wonderful things that they do. And we welcome more of those, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
All right.
Stay
Take
home,
care.
stay safe.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Today on Facts at 5, we're going to talk about our East End restaurants. How are our restaurants coping during COVID? With me today are two great people, and we're so happy that they're going to join us for this program. Mark Smith, who is a managing partner at the Honest Man Group, which includes Nick and Tony's, Rowdy Hall, and many other restaurants that we all go to. And Charlene DeSmet, the partner at the Springs Tavern. Welcome to you both.
Hey.
Hi, guys. Mark, I'm going to start with you. This is obviously a challenging time for everybody. You have a lot of employees. Tell us basically how you're coping, what's going on with you and your restaurants.
So, like all the restaurants, back on, I think it was March 13th at 8 o'clock at night, we were ordered to close our restaurants. And the only thing we could do was pivot to takeout and or delivery. We're just doing takeout. But so Tuesday morning, the 16th, we called a staff meeting of all our companies, which is 5 restaurants, and had the terrible experience of having to lay off 100 people, which, after 30 some odd years of building businesses, to be told that you have to close them down is in one sense heartbreaking. And but the real hard part was looking into the eyes of 100 people that, are your family, your restaurant family, and telling them that due to no fault of their own, they are out of work, and unfortunately we had to do it, to try to keep the restaurants alive so that when all this is over, whenever that's going to be, that there's a place for these people to come back to. And so we've been doing takeout at all the restaurants. It was a learning curve. I mean, basically takeout is, it's a sort of necessary evil up until this happened. It was maybe, 3-4% of our total revenue. It was never big enough to really even figure it out. And now it's 100% of our revenue. So, we've had to do things to sort of get better at it. And at the time, and also in terms of just learning how to do takeout really well. We had to deal with all the hurdles that were put up due to the COVID-19 in terms of, wearing face masks and gloves and people's, I'm not getting out of the car. And, I have some wild stories, but, obviously this has affected people in different ways. And, we're trying to accommodate it. And the most important thing is that we're safe for our employees and for the people we're feeding. So it's been a rough time. The roughest part, the hardest part, is not knowing when it's going to be over. And once it's over, what it looks like when it is over. I'm sure that we'll have some sort of decreased capacity for a period of time. The timing of this couldn't have been worse coming into, our season when, I don't know about Charlene, I'm sure it's similar, between like May and the end of September, we do 70% of our volume, our revenues, and hopefully we make enough in those months to give it back the rest of the time. And when that's over and time to start again, there's some money left. So for this to hit when it did is just, couldn't have been worse.
Yeah. Let me talk to Charlene and see, and then I'm going to get back to you. Charlene DeSmet, the Springs Tavern. Charlene?
Yes.
Hi. I was thinking recently, a couple months ago when it was the Jackson Pollock anniversary and how we did that spot last year when you had the Jackson Pollock dinner. And I've been thinking of you a lot in Springs. Yeah. Tell me what's going on at the tavern. It's got a long history, and you've got a lot of real regulars, year-round regulars. How are you accommodating and coping?
So similar to, what Mark said about the timing and sort of having to rescale everything, we did follow the guidelines and reduce capacity for a week and did takeout only. Then we closed. We closed from March 22nd and we reopened on April 8th for a few reasons. One, we had read the governor's orders saying that the next 2 weeks are going to be the most contagious. We also needed to regroup. We needed to relaunch a website to allow us to show a smaller menu that we could update daily. We needed to lay people off. We just needed to make a whole bunch of changes. We didn't really do any take. It was a very small percentage of our business. So we offer takeout and delivery. I'll probably continue to do the delivery. For us, it's pretty close. We have a lot of locals. We still feel that we're serving the community. I think people are as loyal to us as they can be. But the timing of when it hit couldn't be more true. We just came out of the winter season, and March is when we start to vamp up. So we lost a lot of birthday parties
and you guys do a lot of events there. You do, whether you've got the live music, and I want to ask Mark about that as well, because at Rowdy Hall, I know there are different performances, and some of the other restaurants. There's no crystal ball, obviously, for what's going to happen with our summer. But how are you anticipating that?
Well, we cut back on all the non-essential things, such as DirecTV and all the music licenses. Wherever we could cut, we cut immediately. Because you need to trim the fat and get as lean as you can, as fast as you can. We're doing like a virtual Friday night, Latino night. I anticipate, when we do get back to forward, whatever forward looks like, that it's not going to be the same. There's going to be restrictions on how many people are allowed in. So a lot of what was normal to us is, we're going to have to figure it out as we go, just like we had to figure out the loans as we were going,
Right. That's what I want to ask you both. Let me get back to Mark. But before I do, Charlene, how many employees? You have a smaller operation with this one restaurant. I know Mark has obviously the restaurant group, but talking numbers, you had to lay off people or reduce your staff temporarily?
We laid off 9 and we have 2.
Okay. Let's get back to Mark. Mark?
Yeah.
You've got several restaurants in your group. I sat many nights by myself off season at Rowdy Hall. I miss those lettuce wraps and and a really good glass.
We miss having you there. Trust me.
Yeah, and many times at the front room and have my chicken dinners with Robert Zimmerman at Nick and Tony's. So I feel for And I know you've got great staff there. But how many employees are we talking about? You've got several restaurants, obviously, between Nick and Tony's, Rowdy Hall.
So we had a layoff. I think it was 103 people initially.
Yeah.
We kept probably 30. I'm gonna guess something around there. And we just sort of said, okay, let's go. What do we got to do to change it? We did a lot of it on the fly. We never closed. We were really, and knock on wood, nobody in the organization that I'm aware of has gotten the COVID-19. So that's really good news.
How do you deal in terms of? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm, go ahead.
How do you deal in terms of? I think about this, like ordering food. I mean, do you know even supply and demand and how, it's not like you're going to have your regular restaurant thing in, but it's takeout. So how does that work?
Well, like Charlene, we sort of consolidated and edited down all the menus initially. And we actually have been funded for these PPP loans, which is a whole nother conversation. So we started hiring people back, expanded the menu a little bit. But, look, we've been at it for 30 years. And unfortunately, we're in a resort community. So we go from the, doldrums of January to the nights in July. So we're sort of covered on how do we order, on slow nights and slow times versus busy times. So that really wasn't much of a problem. And for the most part, our suppliers have been coming out here. So product to this point has not been a problem for us. Ordering hasn't been a problem.
But I want to talk quickly about, because we have a little bit of time left, and then we'll get to Charlene about this East Hampton Eats, which is a new program through the Village Preservation Society of East Hampton, which is new, and it's funding local restaurants to a degree. Yeah, I got an email from the cantor at the Jewish Center about some meal tickets, and then I saw the press release. Tell us quickly about that.
So quickly about it, somebody, a second homeowner came to me, a friend, and been out here forever, said, look, I want to help. As a lot of people have come to me and said, what can I do? Yeah. So I said, look, I'm really busy. I can't organize the front end. I can supply the product. He says, well, the idea is we want to help restaurants and we want to help local people that are food insecure. So I said, okay, we sort of worked on some things, and they are basically, for the last 2 weeks, I've been doing it with my 3 restaurants. As sort of a beta test, and now they're expanding it. And Charlene, we need to talk later because you need to get on it. So basically what they're doing is they're giving out every night 100 to 200 coupons, depending on the night, to various people throughout the town, whether they be first responders, whether they be people that work in the hardware stores, whether it's town employees that work at the sanitation department, whoever.
Great. The stop and shop people, whoever. Yeah,
whoever. And then they take those coupons for that night and they can come to any one of my 4 restaurants, and hopefully Springs Tavern in the future, and Sam's, and some other local places that I want to share the wealth with, because it's about our restaurants and our community. It's not just about me and my companies. So people come in, and the coupons essentially worth $20. So in each one of our restaurants, we've identified 1 to 2 to 3 different menu items that they can choose from. And
that's great.
Yeah, and they don't pay anything. It's funded by East Hampton
Preservation Society.
Yeah, which is part of the Preservation Society, and it's a great program, and these guys are doing really good stuff.
Great. Charlene?
So, yes.
Tell me what you guys have. Yeah. This is a new thing that's been starting. Go ahead.
Yep. So I do a lot of the detail stuff, and so I read about it. It came down fast. I, figured out where we needed. We have not been funded. We are in the queue through Chase, which is step 3. So I'm pretty optimistic about that. That's the only
Charlie, where do you see your season ahead? And then real quickly. I mean, it's hard. What do you hope for, and what do you see in terms of the near future?
What I hope for and what I see, I think, are 2 different things. I think is a very slow opening that'll be monitored, and I don't think that we'll see the capacity that we have been allowed to use in the past. I think we'll utilize our outdoor space, which has really been underutilized. I think we'll probably have to continue keeping our tables a certain distance apart.
Right.
And the bar stools, a certain part, I think that we will not be able to do our Friday nights. I don't think that any place out here, including us, will really be able to have huge crowds of people. I think we'll get into testing, where we can use a thermometer when people come in, when we get to that stage.
Yeah.
And we'll just continue to take all the safety precautions. No one is allowed inside. Delivery made into the trunk of a car. When we deliver to the house, we just ring the doorbell and leave. So it's really no contact. I think that'll ease up somewhat, but I think capacity of consumers that we've been allowed to serve in the past will decrease. So that's not what I want. I think that's what we will say.
Okay, great. Mark, closing comments?
Everybody, please stay safe. Hopefully, our restaurants, Springs Tavern, all the other local restaurants will at some point be in a position where they can do enough business to hopefully maintain their business. It's, nobody really knows. And that's the scary part for me. It's, if I know, I can sort of deal with it and plan, but not knowing what it's going to look like, I agree. It's going to be probably at least a 50% capacity limitation. Similar to what we had just before they closed us down. And I think people also are just, who knows how people's habits over these last 2 months are going to change in terms of going out and being around people. I don't particularly see people wanting to go to a bar this summer and hanging out shoulder to shoulder with people, whether they're allowed or not allowed. So it's a combination of things. Yeah. But
you reassess as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really organic sort of situation, but thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Mark Smith from the Honest Man Group and Charlene DeSmet from Springs Tavern. We love you guys, and thank you for all you do, and we hope to be as supportive as possible. Thanks again.
All right.
All right.
Ciao.
All right.
Stay safe, everybody.